Hi, let's talk about thesis statements. Now, you would expect that at this point we had already covered thesis statements, but because we've been so focused on a research question, we haven't really thought about the statement that comes out of that question until now, when you kind of have to start to write a rough draft of your lit review. So let's do that. For this week or this day, you ended up reading Miller Cochrane's chapter 3 with a particular focus on the first 6 pages, right? 37 through 42 or something. And I'm going to push back against Dr. Miller Cochrane for a number of reasons, but I feel entitled, or at least able to do this because I actually knew her at NC State when I got my master's degree. So I'm going to push back, right? Dr. Miller Cochrane says that we're looking at a simple thesis and a complex thesis. But really, all that is a simple thesis is a should statement. Employers should do this thing. Whereas a complex statement is still that should statement. Employers should do this thing because whatever. So the difference, according to the text that you read, is that you can have a simple thesis that says that something should occur, or you can have a complex thesis which says that something should occur because of whatever reasoning, right? You either have just a claim or you have a claim plus reasoning, and that's a complex thesis. Fine. I think we can do better. I think we do better. So what I want to do and challenge you to do for your thesis is to go beyond just writing a claim with a because statement, with a reason behind it. And I want you to actually construct that into an arguable research thesis, which is in itself very complex. And it has 4 characteristics. It has to be arguable. And by that, I really mean that somebody is not just going to nod their head and accept it as fact. It is not a fact. It cannot be a fact. If it's a fact, then everybody's talking for no reason. Okay? So we want it to be arguable. We want to be able to have to persuade somebody in our claim. It also needs to be provable, which is to say we have to be able to find evidence to back it up. This also means that we cannot use abstract words in our thesis. Words like good, words like best, words like beautiful, right? Those abstract concepts that you cannot pinpoint and say, well, what is the best, right? If you can go through and explain what is the best, then that should be in your thesis instead of the word best. All right. So we have no facts and we have no abstractions. Okay. So next, it needs to be opinionated, which, granted, giving a little bit back to Dr. Miller Cochrane, this is a lot of that should, right? It's my belief that this thing should occur, or it's my belief that this thing does not occur as often as it should, right? We still have that should statement when we write it in opinionated language. Just know that you don't actually have to use the word should. We can go through and just insert the words I think before your thesis statement and see if it fits. See if you do actually think that, and make sure that that, again, is not a statement of fact. I think the sky is blue doesn't work, right? Like, yes, you and everybody else thinks that thing. So next, it needs to be topical, which is just to say it needs to be relevant to your audience, relevant to what your audience cares about. If we're writing to an audience of school board directors and we start to talk about the education of pre-K kids, school board directors aren't necessarily going to care, right? Unless they have multiple roles and everything, which of course everybody does. Either way, it doesn't relate to that specific audience by way of which we are defining that audience. So go through and make your thesis statement arguable, provable, opinionated, and topical to your audience. Feel free to begin with a claim, reason, sort of a formula. And then take a look and see how it can be written better. See how we can go through and have these things. Now, one of the other things to talk about is actually the placement of your thesis. In a literature review, you may hint at it a little bit at the beginning in that kind of introductory background, current context kind of section of it that, all of this research is focusing on this thing, right? Or in the topic of whatever, really what's being discussed is this thing. You can have that first part, you can even allude that, and it's missing something. It doesn't consider all demographics or it's focused on a specific demographic, something like that. But really what we built in those individual conferences when we're talking about the research says blank, but more research is needed about blank, that will end up coming in your conclusion. And by the way, all of those things can be rewritten in the form of claim, reasoning, arguable, provable, opinionated, topical. So go ahead and build your thesis. Take a look at making it all these things, and then go ahead and repost it as a reply to your discussion board 8. This is a great place, right, when we start to really build all of these outlines out, that you have your introduction now, you should have your headings and everything, you should have your synthesis in there. Now we get the thesis, the complex thesis, in both kind of the introduction and that conclusion, what comes next. And okay, we can start to write, we can start to put together a rough draft of that lit review.